And here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN Plus. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. What a beautiful day here in Toronto.
Scorching
Everyone feeling
hot.
Good?
Scorching hot and feeling great.
Scorching.
I can't wait to get in today, too. And later on in the show, I'm going to tell you guys about a league that I discovered in North Bay. You will not believe it.
Okay.
Love it.
There you go. Exciting stuff. Well, how about us, right? We're chirping the Mavs. We're chirping the Oilers. And they're still playing on a beautiful Monday afternoon.
Wow.
We got Dallas trying to survive tonight and Edmonton down in South Florida tomorrow night.
And how about I need before we get into that, I need your guys' opinion on the Rory McIlroy soiling the like the underpants.
And that kind of heat too. That kind of heat. And
I just need to hear it because I couldn't. I was flying. I didn't get to watch it live. But I mean,
Hayes at Coppenwood. There's no other way. This is Hayes at Coppenwood on 18.
That's one of the worst putts a professional can hit in that situation. I don't even have a comparable. Like, here's the way to put it, Noodles. I think if you went to Rory today, now that he slept on it, and said, would you have preferred to miss the cut or that happen? He'd say, I'll take the cut miss all day. Get me out of here, because he's embarrassed. Like, that's a worst case scenario. It's one thing if you're off the tee and you rifle 3 fairways over.
This wasn't Greg Norman slashing it into the crowd on 18 at the Masters.
No.
Yeah.
This was 5 feet total worth of putts that he missed. The scar tissue, I'm fascinated what that will do to that guy. Like, to see him in contention again, because he's so good, Hayes, he's going to be in contention again. And these guys say, like, the nerves after years, it gets worse and worse. I'm fascinated to see what that can do to that guy. Because living in the moment, I was telling, this is wheeling out of there
quick, too.
He just squealed his tires. And
he was
trunk slamming.
That was us at the Canadian Open at 7 o'clock.
Yes, as soon as Doogie got us out of the cart. Part of me thought, you know what, you got to man up and just talk. But at the end of the day, it's like a guy that throws a pizza up the middle and the media is like, what did you see there? And it's like, well, I threw the pizza up the middle and the guy got it and he scored. So, like, how do you answer the questions? As much as I think you got to man up and say something, like, just talk about it.
I'm okay with him leaving. Now, we love to track flights on this show.
Yeah.
He was wheels up on his plane 53 minutes after Bryson's putt hit the back of the cup. 53 minutes.
Wow.
That's got to be a record.
I think the plane was on the runway and he jumped out the window to get in the plane.
Yeah, he Tom Cruised that. That was Mission Impossible.
Jumped on the wing.
Yeah, he was leaving the state of North Carolina on the wing, and he crawled in the cockpit around Georgia.
Yeah, he could not wait to get out of that state.
Couldn't wait.
But,
okay, so walk me through it. Like, again, walk me through it. Like, he can win the tournament on that or tie.
Well, if he hits it both putts, he wins the tournament.
Yes.
Like he missed the putt on 16, and that one, you could be playing any money game, anything outside of a U.S. Open, and your buddy's going to say, pick that up, you're good. And, like, this is a 2.5-foot putt, and he barely hits the cup. And then he gets up and down out of the bunker where he short sides himself, which was so stupid on 17. And he hits a great bunker shot, rolls that in. I'm like, all right, this tournament's over. He's going to win it here because I think he's going to par 18, and who knows what Bryson's going to do.
Right.
And he's got a 3.5-footer on 18, and he pukes his guts out. And there's no other way to describe
it's the exact same shot, right?
Yeah, basically the same putt, and he overplayed it, and then he pushes it.
Oh, my goodness.
And the underpants cam on that cat,
my God,
unlike maybe anything we've seen.
It sizzled.
In a long
it was
time.
so hot, and it broke the underpants cam.
What did the announcer say? Like, was there a Sam Rosen? Was there an oh my good? Like, what was there?
I think they were in shock. They were like, I don't even remember what they said. And watching it in the moment, you're like, good playing, Bryson. Like, I think that golf course, the way it was set up, it like brought 10 guys maybe in the field that could have won the golf tournament because you had to hit moonballs coming into those greens. You saw great players that were hitting 7-irons that were just skidding off the green. So guys like Rory, Oberg, DeChambeau, like, it really narrowed the field to guys that could win that golf tournament. when you're really breaking it down. And those guys were munching golf balls, and they were hitting moonshots into the green, and they were able to get down to the end, and you're like, Bryson, great playing. And then you're like, hang on a sec. Rory McIlroy just choked his guts out. That was Scott Hoke at the Masters. Some dude playing in the British at St. Andrews had a putt that was like 1.5 foot long, and he missed it. And then went to the playoff, and Jack won. It was it was a choke job, man.
Yeah, that was Benny Coles in like Puerto Rico. That's not the U.S. Open at Pinehurst number 2. And listen, DeChambeau getting up and down the way he did, magical.
Incredible shot.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And that's a shot. It won't be the equivalent to Payne Stewart's putt, but it's not far off. Like that is a shot that will be remembered forever. Pinehurst number 2, the same green. Payne Stewart obviously makes the putt. He wins the Open. We know what happened to him. Obviously, he very sadly passed away not long after that. Right. And it's one of the more famous moments in golf history and in sporting history. But his bunker shot there on 18 it cannot be overstated how tough that shot is in the moment. And then he hit a putt that was longer than either of Rory's misses. So he also had to close it.
Don't kid yourself. Even as good as DeChambeau is and how seriously he takes his game, that bunker shot could have went anywhere in that moment. He could have bladed that over the green. He could have chunked it short and had a 40-footer. There was all different kinds of options for that. And he hit the shot of his life, as he described.
Yes, he did.
It was incredible. But the fact that Rory missed 2 putts, when we're talking about guys that drive at 350 off the tee, like 528-yard par 4s, and they've got 170 left on par 4s. It's like outrageous driving of the golf ball. And he missed 2 putts, 5 feet in length for both of them total.
Did I read a stat, too, that he hadn't missed one outside of 4 feet, like 496 in a row?
Yep.
Something ridiculous like that? Did I read that stat?
That's precisely what the stat was. This guy, I mean, they're professionals. Like, you would expect that would be the case.
Right.
But that's exactly what it was. He simply did not miss from that length at any point all season. 496 for 496 inside 3 feet before that miss on 16. And then we saw what happened on 18. And, him taking off, I agree with you. This is a guy in McIlroy. I like him. I'll admit I have a soft spot for the guy. He's also very accessible. He talks a lot to the media. And he wasn't in Bryson's playing group. It's not like he was, Matt Pavone, who had a helicopter waiting for him, and he was wheels up like Mr. Burns the second the ball went in. He wasn't playing with Bryson, and that's the worst choke job of his career. That's worse than the Masters in 2011, I believe it was. He was a kid. He was just a kid at the Masters when he choked that away. A couple of years ago at St. Andrews, that was an 18-hole. He just didn't play well, and Cam Smith came and got him. You have a 2-shot lead where you're playing lights out in the back nine of a U.S. Open, and you choke it away. That will never be forgotten. It will be infamous for the rest of time. And I think it's deeper than just him losing. It's also DeChambeau's a live guy. Like, that's PGA versus live. Like, Greg Norman is drinking beers out of that jug right now, and McIlroy knows it, and McIlroy's got to chew on it. Like, it'd be one thing if Scheffler won that. He'd say, it's Scheffler, look what he's doing. Or even Cantlay, I think he hates Cantlay. That probably didn't help either. He misses putts, and he's got to watch Cantlay all day. But the fact that it was Bryson, and I will admit I've come around on DeChambeau, but I think the reason for that is I only have to see him 4 times a year. Like, 4 times a year, I can take Bryson. Like, I kind of like him, and he's come around, and he's big on YouTube, and he's changing the game.
Don't
and he's
kid yourself.
A lot of it's phony.
He is
a lot of it's phony.
Is he Monty?
He's Phil Mickelson. Like, he might as well do the Phil thumbs up and like the disingenuine thumbs up to everywhere. He was signing hats where they're told not to. He knew exactly how to play the crowd.
I like the guy in the wheelchair. He grabbed his hat.
That was
and signed
cool.
it. That was
Very
cool.
cool
I mean,
scene.
there
Very
are some
cool.
things where you're looking at the guy. Again, I don't know his fabric. I'll take your guys' word for it. If he's phony and he's Monty and he's grin screwing everybody, but he knew exactly how to press people's buttons, because that's all I could hear was, hey, Bryson, man of the people. That's what I heard yesterday, man of the people.
Which might be
and it
extreme.
wasn't long ago, guys, where the Koepka-Bryson exchange happened, where everybody hated Bryson. They were calling him Brooksy. They were all up in his grill, and they hated his guts. and they were loving his action yesterday.
Yeah, they were, man. Well, he's an American. He finally changed his hat. I got to be honest. I know that's shallow, but he used to rock the old hats, and I was like, I'm not down with this, man. Throw on a regular golf hat. Something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP is all in on supporting the Oilers to end the 30-year drought. They're changing their logo from red to orange until the Oilers win it. Boston Pizza wants all of Canada on board to bring the cup home where it belongs. See you for Puck Drop and join us cheering on the good guys. History awaits. We've been asking, historically, what will this U.S. Open be remembered for? Bryson winning or Rory choking? What do you think we're going to remember?
Unfortunately, it's Rory choking. Like,
really?
There's just,
I
and
agree.
it's the fashion that he did it. If he was 1 yard in the rough and he got in that, I couldn't stand. They kept calling it the native area.
I know.
It was like
just call it something
It was
else.
the rough. Just say the rough. It
Yeah.
was like, I don't know why that bothered me, but it's like, okay, it's the native. And if he was like 1 foot in and he got screwed on a break, it's like, okay, you got screwed. But he missed 2-foot putts.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. The nature. He had a 2-shot lead on the back nine of a U.S. Open, and he threw it away on 3-foot putts. It's
Yeah,
Rory,
that's
man.
tough.
It's Rory. That's what's going to be remembered. More on that throughout the afternoon. We got a lot going on. The Euros continuing. We got a picture coming out of Fox and Landon Donovan. We might have to fully dissect later on this afternoon. I don't even know what to make of it. We'll put it up and we'll break it down later. I need your expert analysis of this guy's hair, because he might have to sue somebody for what happened to him over the
Dude,
weekend.
did you see the vid of the English fan that woke up in the stadium at 4 in the morning? Dude, you got to see this. This guy videotapes himself, and he got completely just crushed at the game, and he woke up at 4 a.m. and no one found him. He was in the stadium.
You're kidding me. Oh,
Dude,
I haven't seen
Joe,
that.
Joe from the Bridge, you've got to find the video of this cat. He's in the stadium, and he's like, oh, I'm drunk.
Does he have a wolf shirt on?
Dude, he should. If there's a wolf shirt nominee, the guy that woke up in the stadium all by himself.
That is nightmare fuel, man. I always worry about that on a flight. Like, you fall asleep, you wake up, and the bird's halfway across the world somewhere else. But you fall. How is there no one responsible? I guess it's a massive stadium. You just assume grown adults.
And I guess they're like cleaning
leave.
at 7. They're cleaning the stadium at 7 in the morning or something. And this cat woke up. Look at this guy. He's by himself.
How did they not?
At
Happy
4
Father's
Look at his face.
That guy's got 4 kids,
Yeah,
a mortgage.
and he doesn't know how to get out. He's just
Yeah.
he's a mess. And look at him. He's embarrassed, and he's just like, I got slaughtered last night, and I'm in the stadium.
Yeah, well, England won the match too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you get a win, you floor it, you wake up, you're somewhere in Germany, you have no idea what's going on. That's a
buckled.
different level. That's up there with Nick Cage, man. That's some Stevie Caldwell plus Rick Bushwood plus Wade Boggs level of activity.
We might have to throw him in the mix for level of concern. The
Yeah.
English fan that woke up in the stadium.
Woke up in Munich somewhere, had no idea what he was doing with his life.
A couple of whiskeys and 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah, I guess. All right, so Keegan's coming up. Jays took 2 or 3 over the weekend. We'll get into that, and the Sox are in town tonight. But the Cup Final, here we go. There
Mary
they go,
Swanson.
8-1. You were in the building. That was. I got to give a huge shout out to the fans, because that was a celebration on Saturday night. I kind of, my read on it, Noodles, and you tell me, because you were there and you witnessed it.
Yeah.
It was almost if it was like a celebration for the whole season. Like, not we're coming back to
You
win
mean
the
if
cup.
they lose in 5, they're like, we
Exactly.
got our game at home. type
That's
of
how I
thing,
read
and-
it. Like, hey, let's have a time. It's Saturday. We're up 8-1. We got to win in the Cup Final. Maybe, and we're alive. Maybe anything happens.
Right.
But let's floor it like this English fan in Germany. And that was just a wild 8-1 in a Cup Final. That's absurd.
It was. I mean, honestly, everything that could have gone right for Edmonton did. Everything that could have gone wrong for Florida did. And what I mean by that is, keep in mind, Florida, this is uncharted territory for them. They flew in their families. They, and they didn't fly him in being arrogant. They flew him in because there was a chance they could win the cup. I want to preface my comments by that, because that's not arrogance. That's just saying, hey, we're up 3-0 and the cup's in the building. We want our loved ones there. We discussed that on Friday, guys. So, it is what it is. But right from the drop of the puck, Edmonton just seemed to be more motivated all over them. They got some puck luck. All of a sudden, they chased the goaltender. Now we're looking. Now, we need to get into this later, because this isn't a right now conversation. But Dotty's sitting beside me. Bobrovsky gets pulled 5 goals on 11 shots, and he goes, did he just lose the Conn Smythe there? And I said, well, the other guy's no good tonight either. Barkov.
Right, Barkov did nothing either.
McDavid, torched him. So I said, I don't know, but optically it's not good, because now all of a sudden, think about it, they got 3 on him the night before, they got 5 on him in half a game there. Now it's, hey, we got 8 on Bobrovsky here in the last.
It's a valid question. I think, listen, Bob runs hot and cold through his career.
Right.
The only thing that could matter if you're Edmonton is if Bob, for some reason, is going cold. I'm not banking on that. I don't think it'll happen. But this guy has a history of either winning the Vezina or being a backup by the end of the season. That's been his history. It's either this guy's unreal and going to the Hall of Fame, or wow, I can't believe we're paying him this money. He's brutal. And, he's been great. I think he bounces back. I know the Oilers psychologically are going to say the right things. Hey, we're still up against it, which they are, but maybe we can play with some freedom and we got nothing to lose. And that might be true. But they're also that much closer to being deflated, right? So in other words, if Florida comes out and pots too quick and Bob stands on his head, check please could show up, for the Oilers.
It's going to come down to the last game. If the Florida Panthers win on Tuesday night and Barkov gets 2 goals, he's probably going to win the Conn Smythe. If Bob stands on his head again like he did in Game 1, Bob wins the Conn Smythe. And for the Edmonton Oilers, if you're ever in a series and you're only trying to stay alive and get your opposition's attention, you might as well do it beating them 8-1. Because that might just get them thinking, where it's like, oh my God, 8-1. It's not like they squeaked one out and Florida's going back saying, we still own them, this and that. They got clobbered. So if your only goal is to get the opposition's attention, the Edmonton Oilers damn well did it, because they smoked them. And now Connor McDavid's saying we want to drag him back to Alberta. That's fine. But what the Oilers have to do, and Noodles, I'd be fascinated to see if you agree, they have to commit to a 1-0 game coming up. Because the Florida Panthers are going to get back to the stingy D. And there's been a couple games in the past, as an example. Ross Colton, game-winning goal against the Montreal. It was 1-0 game. Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup. Eastern Conference Finals 2 or 3 years ago. Tampa Bay, New York Islanders. It was a Yanni Gourde shorthanded goal. Then they got an empty netter that game. So they have to play that game where it could come down to one play. Because it ain't going to be 8-1 again.
I agree with you 100%. I think Edmonton's got to go down there. This isn't the right verbiage, but steal a game. Because Florida, I said this the other night, everything that went wrong could have gone wrong. It's not going to happen 2 nights in a row in the Stanley Cup Final. Bob's going to have a response. The players are going to have a response. In their mind, they're like, we've got an opportunity here to finish him off, win a Stanley Cup on home ice. What you just said, though, it's funny. Dreg said it too. He said, this wasn't a 3-2 win that, you throw it towards the net, it hits a skate, and you keep the series alive. This was an ass-kicking. And you did get their attention as to, okay, every guy that we had talked about on our show on Friday, 0 goals for McDavid, Hyman hadn't scored, Draisaitl looked, not good, Nurse is getting chirped on, it was just all of those guys had a night. Stuart Skinner, I thought, was really good when he needed to be. Now, can you do it 2 games in a row? Because you have to. If you don't, and it's not about scoring 8. You're right. It's going to be a 2-1 game. It might be 3-2, something like that, maybe an empty netter. But Edmonton's got to win a different way. But there are people in Edmonton that are saying this probably could be 2-2 in this series.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I mean, they were clearly the better team in Game 1, irrelevant. Right. But it's a tie game in Game 3, and 6 minutes gets away from them, and they battle back, and they almost tie it. That's exactly what it could have been, but it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Florida's up 3-1.
But I think that's what they're drawing. Sure. I think what they're saying is drawing confidence on is this hasn't. I'm telling you, it was really weird. Down 3-0. They kept saying we we believe we can win this series. And I know it's lip service, but in their minds that came out, they were like, we think we can, win games here, and we just need to show it. Now, they showed one game. I don't know what that means. Florida could just have the response and put them to bed tomorrow night, or we got a series here. If
you go back to Edmonton, man, then it's Rory McIlroy time for Florida.
3 foot. Yeah.
Yes, it's watch yourself. And I saw someone tweet out WPLG Local 10 News down in Florida reporting that Jack Nicklaus will be the one banging the drum tomorrow night. So the Golden Bear will be out there. Yes, sir. Getting the crowd fired up. All right, Struddy coming up. Jason Strudwick just after 5. Keegan later in the hour to set the scene for Jay's Sox tonight down at the Dome. Darren Dreger on the morning show today. Dregs with an updated report on the Mitch Marner situation. We'll play it. We'll get into it next.
Don't sweat the
OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score up on TSN2. Jason Strudwick in just over half an hour. Keegan Matheson from the Park. Jay's Sox tonight, later in the hour. So Darren Dreger, our boy Dregs, who we talk to weekly on our show, we had a good conversation with him last week about, the upcoming offseason, where this is going. Obviously, Mitch Marner is at the forefront of a lot of different talking points here in Toronto, because he can either sign an extension as of July 1st or play out his final year, or the Leafs try to move on him, but he's got to waive in order for that to happen. He has a full no movement clause, full no trade, the whole nine. So with that in mind, he was on First Up this morning with Korolnik and Koliakvo and asked about Marner, any updates, where we at. Here's what Dreg said this morning.
Marner negotiated his deal in good faith, including the no-move clause. Toronto finds something or decides. And are we so sure that Toronto doesn't want to extend Mitch? I'm not. I think Treliving would rather extend than trade.
So there you go. That's where he's at. That's his reporting, that Treliving and the Leafs would rather extend Mitch Marner as opposed to trade him.
Explain what that would mean, Brian, so I can kind of let it sink.
I would assume, let's face it, he's going to make more money than he's making right now. Anyone suggesting that Mitch is going to take a penny less than $10.9 million has not been paying attention. So I would assume it's at least the Nylander deal. If he wants to sign for 8 years, I'm guessing they may even just say, listen, if we're going to stick around, you want to be a part of this, you can take Willie's deal. 8 years, 11.5, but that comes with a full no move, full no trade. That would be my assumption. Maybe it's a 4-year deal, 5-year deal, probably at the same money, though. He's not taking any less than he's getting right now.
No.
That's just the truth. That's the reality. So
it is. That's the going rate, though, for call it round up 100-point player. And the guy who's been,
we'll see if that's the
league.
Going rate. You think Sam Reinhart's going to sign for that? I don't know. I mean, it's a going rate in Toronto, Noodles. You're right. In Toronto, it absolutely is. But I think it's important to point out in Toronto, that's the going rate.
You're right. You make a good point there. Okay. I will rephrase. The going rate for the salary structure for where he's involved, which is Austin Matthews, top of the heap. The next is William Nylander. And Mitch, you could argue, would be right there or should be right there based on the structure of the team and how valuable he is as far as point production and all of that type of stuff. So I think what you're doing is you're turning it, if 1 year from now, 1 calendar year from now, you're going from a 4, the core 4 to core 3. That's really what you're looking at.
Yep.
If you end up extending him at that number. That's basic. That's facts. That's not emotion. That's not anything. That's, John Tavares' $11 million is coming off the books in 1 calendar year, right? So,
well, assuming they don't just say, hey, you stick around too, John. Well, no one else has to leave. Why would Tavares be expected to leave?
Well, I'm saying his contract is up. There's a difference. There's a difference is if you play it out for 1 year, then, and Mitch Marner might not. There's so many different scenarios, and I know you're getting frustrated, though. I'm just trying to lay out stuff. I'm not
frustrated, man. And I, like I said before, we got a job to do. We're hockey analysts, we're commentators. Hayes is a reporter.
I'll take that. I'm a journalist. Thank you.
Yeah, you're a journalist. You're a reporter.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it.
And a host. We don't care the players that are on. I just don't understand how we got to this point. And, hey, if he wants to sign a deal and he comes back and he plays great and the Leafs get over the hump and they win some playoff rounds, hey, that's great. Yeah. But do I think we just went from a place where we're like, maybe this is just a transition year where we let some contracts play out and we're going to get some different bodies in, sign some different pieces, and it's going to be a new-look Maple Leafs team. Now we're just talking about, what was the term, mega extension? So we're just going to keep everybody around, and that's the way that's how we went from frustration, and there's tendencies year after year, and it's got to change to, forget that was all nonsense. We're just going to do mega extension. I don't care who plays on the team. I just find it weird, the transition from going from one place to the other, changes to this. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to really take that, to be honest with you.
You're right. Let me throw one scenario in here, and we're watching it right now. You just mentioned Sam Reinhart. Now, we haven't had this in a while. Correct me if I'm wrong. A guy playing on an expiring deal that, is very unique, like we'll call it superstar player type of thing, right? Usually it's like, got to have him locked up by July 1st, got to have. This might play out. What was the date on Willie's? I can't remember even. Was that December type of thing?
It might have been into the new year, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, December, January.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think we're all expecting July 1st, Mitch Marner signing an 8-year extension on either side. I don't think Mitch's, and I don't think Brad Treliving and his management group. This might be a scenario, of what you're just talking about. Let's wait and see how this year plays out. If you're going to pay the guy a boatload of money, let's see if you want to pay him a boatload of money next July 1st. You can wait, because that's what the Florida Panthers are doing. They got to figure out if they're going to sign Brandon Montour and Sam Reinhart, but they're doing it in a Stanley Cup Final right now. You might have the luxury, I don't know if that's the right wording.
Yeah.
To just play it let's both sides. Let's see what this.
You don't have to do anything.
Looks like. Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. The Leafs have never operated with that type of approach, Noodles. Their approach as a team has always been, from my standpoint, panic. Better get it done. Better give them everything, and then that's what happens. Right? They've never, because they could have done that with Willie. They didn't do it. He went over to Sweden, was lights out, and they're like, we got to pay this guy 11.5 over 8. Just give it to him. And he got it. They could have played that out. Could have been different by the end of the year. They could have said, listen, actually, we want it yet 11. Maybe he sticks around for 11. Maybe they save $250,000, $500,000. They haven't done that in the past. Maybe they do that with Marner. Maybe they don't. I think to answer your point or your question, about how we collectively went from one place to the next, I think the operative word there is we, as in collectively on the outside, not the inside. Right. I have been saying this since day one. I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back.
No, you have been.
I'll believe it when I see it, that inside the building, they think they need to change. And everyone's dissecting these press conferences like, well, you notice they said something different this time. It's meaningless. Words are meaningless. Actions matter. So collectively, a large portion of the fan base, the media, can't speak for everyone, I can speak for us on this show, have concluded that these guys are all great players. This has been a very good run. They're a great regular season team, but I'm not a believer that if you put that much money into 3 skilled forwards who all have the same disposition on the ice, none of them play like Kachuk, none of them play like Bennett, none of them play like Draisaitl, like bring contact on, I'm a beast, come get some. None of them play like that. I don't think you can win a cup like that. That's my opinion. But
can't
my
win a playoff series.
Exactly. But within the building of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, they have proven through their actions they don't see it that way. And whether it's Treliving, my sense would be it would be the man higher than that. Brendan Shanahan's been here for a decade. Brendan's take has been to keep the guys, to believe in the guys, and to get back to the dance. And I understand that logic. Don't get me wrong. I understand it. That the idea of punching your ticket and making the playoffs every year is valuable. And the idea of just trying to break they've been in the toughest division in hockey. I know that's a loser's race and a cop-out comment, but between Tampa, Boston, and Florida, those teams are juggernauts. Tampa went to 3 Cup Finals. Boston was in the Cup Final in 19. Florida's been to Cup Finals 2 years in a row. Last year, Boston had the greatest regular season of all time. It's not been easy for the Leafs. It's not been easy. Where if they were in the Pacific or in the Metro, they probably would be in a different situation. And maybe that's the thinking, and I get it. But there's 8 years of data here, 8 years of proof that much money invested in those three guys just makes it very difficult to balance out your lineup.
Yeah.
But that's how they've been thinking that way forever. They've operated under that guys forever. And I think there's a part of them that might be afraid to live without it, to see it go the other way. As opposed to it go up, they might be worried it goes down, and maybe it does. And if they miss the playoffs, then people lose jobs, and then it gets ugly. And their job, to be fair to Shanahan, Trey Living, everyone else, is not to appease Leafs Nation on June 18th or whatever. Their job is to do what they believe is right.
It's fair enough. And as much as you want to make change, we all think they need to make change. You just discussed the biggest point of all, which is 3 forwards or 4 forwards. Like, you think about the money going out to those players next year. Like, Willie's at 11.5. Austin Matthews is going to be making 13.25 next year. So how they're going to balance out a lineup. So we want change. I think fans want change. But at the end of the day, Mitch Marner and John Tavares, whoever you think you want to, they can just say, don't even think about it. Like, don't even ask me.
Absolutely.
So that's what you're left with.
Yep.
So if Mitch Marner's going to play out the string, and I got to say this again, I've got nothing against Mitch Marner. He is a fantastic player. But those guys going to war together, it just doesn't get it done. So the idea for me, besides all the technical stuff and the contract stuff and the no movement clause, the idea of throwing the same team out there in September, I think would be insane.
Well,
but your hands are tied.
But here's where your hands are not tied on an extension, right? That's the thing. Like,
that is damn correct.
Even Tree Living can come in and say, "Hey, my hands were tied." No, you signed Austin, you signed Willie. You're in there too, Brad. You know what I mean? Like, it's no longer, I got stuck with this, and look what Dubas did. He signed those deals too. And so my point being is he has made an impact on the future of this team. And, yes, if you decide to come back with the 4 of them, I think they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a good team. The players will play great in the regular season. They may win a round or two. That could absolutely happen. But that would be like, if that were to happen and the players were to say, listen, we're not waiving and this is the way it goes, I could understand why the Leafs, out of respect to the players, said, we will abide by that, and we're not going to push you out. We're not going to make life difficult. I think a lot of Leaf fans want to see them make life difficult and force change, but they're a classy organization. They treat these guys really well. I can understand why they feel there's value in continuing to do that.
Hey, and playing out the string, if that's what you're going to do, then your hands are tied, then that's what you're going to do. I got no problem with that.
An extension is totally different. That's totally. Then you're not just playing anything out. Then you're locked in on Mitch, Willie, and Austin for the next 4 years at $35-36 million a year. Like that's what you're doing for the next 4 years. And
we got to go.
That's your team.
I want to add to when Tree took over. The first 2 things he kept saying was his priority was to sign Willie and Austin, correct?
Yep.
I haven't heard what his priority is next.
Valid.
Like, he hasn't come out and said that.
Yep.
So
valid.
that's, so we got to
And I would imagine it most likely won't come out of his mouth what his priorities are moving forward, because there's some dicey ones and some stuff that he doesn't want probably out there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it is important to point out anything could still happen here. Right. Like how everyone feels today, it could change by next week. There could be a change of heart on either side. Maybe a deal gets done. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you want to move on. Who knows what's going to happen?
But I just want to say it again. If Mitch comes back and plays the year next year, I hope he plays great. I hope he has a fantastic year.
Absolutely.
I just think all of these guys going to war together as a team, you're going to get the same result. And if you think anything different's going to happen, maybe you can mix up the decor. Maybe you can add other things, but the result will be the same.
It's
just no other way around it.
Difficult to see it changing year 9.
And they're all a year older, too. So it's like, come on.
And making more. It's tough. It's tough sledding here. We'll see where it goes. Struddy in about 25 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Jason Strudwick in about 20 minutes. More on the U.S. Open later this afternoon as well. Jays take 2 of 3 over the weekend against Cleveland, the Guardians of Cleveland. And now they got the Sox in town tonight. And we'll head down to the park now. Here's our main man, Keegan Matheson of MLB.com. What's up, Keegan?
Good to see you guys. How's everything going?
We're staying cool, man. How about you? I know this heat can get after you sometimes.
Yeah, the walk down here was not good, guys. I get in early, and I got a lot of comments of people giving me a hard time thinking I was here early to do my job. It had nothing to do with that. It was all about drying off. I need that 30-minute dry down window.
What area gets affected? Is it the forehead? Is it like I get kind of the lower back sweats where it's ugly?
That can turn into swass real quick.
Yeah, I don't get that. I just get the forehead right away, guys. It's obvious. I walked up the street here. I'm in the Starbucks trying to wipe myself down, looking like I did something athletic on the way here. Really, I just walked, 3 blocks from the, end of King Street. So it's not a good time. I always remember back to one of the spring trainings, guys. I showed up for Clubhouse one morning, and maybe I'd missed my bedtime the night before, I think, and a catcher asked me how long it took me to swim to the ballpark that day. And that's how I'm looking a lot, guys. My season's over. It's done. I'm just trying to get to October.
Okay, good man. Well, it's kind of like the Jays. It kind of feels like it. Hopefully not. Hopefully their season's not over and they're just trying to get to October. But they won the last couple of games. Bats came alive over the weekend. Not so great on Friday. We'll play Gausman's clip here in a moment. But, they keep saying we're desperate. It's time to get going. And we know what they did with Biggio a week and a half ago. They DFA Vogelback. They brought up some kids, and those kids have kind of had an impact. Keegan, what do you make of it?
Yeah. It's kind of like last year. The Buffalo boys come up again. Spencer Horwitz looks really good in the leadoff spot. He's not in the lineup tonight against a righty, which surprised me. But then you have Addison Barger, who, it might look like it did first time he came up, guys. He went 1 for 18, looked a little overmatched. But then he can also put up those big X and velos. He can do some pretty wow things out in the field. Everything he does is max effort, hard. It's a lot like Brett Lawrie back in the day. It's that controlled chaos, but the word controlled is in really small fonts. I think if any of us swung a bat like Addison Barger did one time, we'd need surgery that day. Like what this guy does is amazing. Out on the field, he's in different shape than any baseball player I think I've covered. He told us the other day, guys, and I'm not a big bench press guy. I've never found myself trapped under a car, so I don't need to. But he told us that he benches 385. You can tell me if that's good.
That can't even be true.
Impressive.
That's
man.
a massive
380.
Wow.
That's serious weight. Keegan, would it be just on point for these guys to take 2 or 3 from the Guardians and then just get waxed tonight by the White Sox? Would that be like on par for them?
Absolutely. That's what this whole season has gone. They're back, they're not. They're back, they're not. It's been a real circle of this. There hasn't been a true run, guys. The only real run was when they went to, I think, 19-26 or 20-26. There was a bit of a slide. But otherwise, it's been splitting a series. They'll take 1-2-1. They'll drop 1-1-2. There hasn't been a defining stretch of the season. They have not been really hot and really cold. They've just kind of been a 500-ish team the whole time, which is not all that exciting. It's been right in the middle. And this Red Sox team is kind of scrappy. I didn't think they would be here at this point. I think the Red Sox are overachieving based on their on-paper talent. But look at the Blue Jays. They're underachieving. You got to give Boston some credit in that sense. And they're an annoying team, which is kind of the perfect way for the Red Sox to play baseball. It's kind of who they always are. And they do a lot on the bases, too. Man, I think they're going to push the Blue Jays.
So, Keegan, they're battling for that wild card spot with the Red Sox, with the Tigers, and you could throw in Tampa Bay as well. Would you, if you had to rank them, or just say who is the best team out of those teams fighting? Would the Blue Jays be that one, or would it be the Red Sox? Or Tampa Bay is a couple games back, but I mean they're always kind of sniveling around too.
It should be the Blue Jays, but there's a lot of should this season that hasn't worked out. Tampa's in there. I still don't believe that Houston is going to stay down all season. I think I'm so used to them being in the postseason and making a run. The Blue Jays have every opportunity on the planet to make a run at this. We just haven't seen that happen yet. And this is the nature of that third wild card, guys. Back when MLB added a third wild card, I loved it. I thought it gave more teams a chance, but now I see, and you look on the NL side, there's like 50 teams within a game. It's strange. As long as you show up and don't forget to go to your next series, you're going to have a chance. in the wild card until August or September. It's really kind of widened that out. I liked it a lot more when there was that kind of one-on-one race and some teams fell off. It helped the trade deadline a bit as well. The deadline's going to be strange because of that, but I think the Rays will find a way. They'll get some guys back healthy. They're going to annoy the Blue Jays all season long. And then when you look up, teams like the Twins and the Royals, those teams being good now makes this tough. The Jays still have a real uphill climb, like legitimate uphill climb to get back into that postseason race.
With Keegan Matheson, MLB.com, Jays Red Sox down at the Rogers Center tonight. Kevin Gausman, didn't get offensive support the other night. It arrived over the course of the weekend, yesterday most notably. Here's what Gausman had to say after the game on Friday night.
As much as you try to block it out, it's really hard to. I mean, the reality is, if we don't pitch well, we probably lose. And so, we got to be really good. That's not to say that we have lack of effort, but right now offensively we're struggling.
So I wouldn't say
like
that's
that, Hazy. I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, he's playing the hits supplied by Bassett like a week before Keegan. Like, it's not verbatim to what Bassett said, but not far off. Like, that's Bassett and Gausman, the two vets in the clubhouse, two vets in the rotation, basically saying, if we're not like just unbelievable, the best five-man starting unit in baseball, we're screwed. Like, that's kind of how I read it. How do you think their teammates would have read that?
I think it was really well said by Gausman. Now, when he's looking off to the right side there, he's looking at me asking him about that Bassett quote. So those were connected a little bit.
Okay.
And they were similar answers. And I think Gausman kind of nailed that line of telling the truth, acknowledging the reality, while also catching himself a bit and saying, listen, this is not effort. It's not because guys don't care. But the reality of being a pitcher on this team right now isn't great. And looking at who they have now, Gausman, Bassett, Barrios, Kikuchi, guys, this is a rotation that if they don't get them into the playoffs, and I don't mean the wild card for 2 days again, I mean actually into the MLB playoffs, into a series, we're going to look back on this 5-10 years from now and think, what the hell happened? It's kind of like that lineup in 2021. Vladdy's MVP year, Semyon hitting 40-plus home runs. We look back on that and say, how did that group not go on a run? This rotation is that good. And we could be sitting here 6-8 years from now saying, man, imagine if they had that 2024 rotation again. They deserve better. It's got to be frustrating for these pitchers. And when you're going out there pitching in a 0-0, 1-0 game all day, that's stressful. You can't just ease back and throw a fastball 92. Every pitch is stressful. That adds up. It really adds up.
Well, was it a shot like Jose Bautista used to do? Like, get some good players, we deserve it. Like, is that what it was or what?
I don't think it was that harsh. I don't know if anyone has that cachet that Jose used to have to go as direct at the front office, but drip, drip, drip. The bucket will fill up with these comments, and you're going to hear that frustration come unless this changes. Because the Blue Jays it's not complicated, guys. They just need to score more. There's nothing complicated about this. We don't need to turn it into a math equation. It's easy to do that, but they just got to score. However it happens, hitting home runs is pretty cool and pretty helpful in that regard. But these pitchers are going to grow more frustrated, and they should. They're doing a great job. They really deserve more.
Well, and I'm sure, the front office would say, go talk to your teammates. Go talk to Bo Bichette. Go talk to George Springer, where, George is a veteran. He's a winner. He's hitting sixth in the lineup tonight. He's got a negative wins above replacement. He's hitting basically around the Mendoza line right now. He's got a sub-6 OPS. Like, what have you picked up from Springer, who's seen it all, done it all, but last year didn't have a great year, and this year, we're deep into the season here. He's in a really dark place. How is he handling it on a daily basis?
This is tough, guys. You knew this would come eventually. It does with all these big contracts. You didn't think it would come in year 4. You're thinking more year 6, and by then, hopefully, you've got a banner hanging up there that you can look at and say, hey, who cares that the end of this deal is bad? That's the dream of how this works out. It hasn't been how it works out. I spoke to George a couple of days ago after a game, after the first win they had there recently, and he acknowledged it. He said, listen, I know I'm not holding up my end of the bargain. I understand that. I get it. And saying what you would expect, that he needs to focus on what he can control, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's easy to look outside the organization. But like you said, it's about George. It's about Bo. If those guys turn their OPS from 600 to 775 or 800, that's bigger than any addition you're going to make outside of this organization. So Springer is supposed to be the guy at the face of these playoff runs. That's why he was brought here. The results have not been there, and yeah, some of it's batted ball luck. But you guys have all seen the strikeouts, the big moments. There was one in Milwaukee that was pretty tough late in that game where he has looked overmatched. And for a player of his caliber, of his contract, of his name around the league, it has come quicker than I expected. And it does get uncomfortable. It gets awfully uncomfortable because the name and the contract matters in all of this. That applies to any sport. We know how that works, but it's a factor that can become uncomfortable.
Absolutely. This heat can be uncomfortable. Stay cool, buddy.
Hey.
Enjoy it tonight. We'll do it again soon.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
There's Keegan Matheson of MLB.com. Yeah, you get a deep sweat going, man, where you're taking napkins down and they just like disintegrate. That's tough.
There's
when you're out in
nothing you
public.
can do to cool off either.
Nothing.
Like, that's
You
the
cannot cool down.
It
If
takes
you're-
a solid hour and 45 minutes, I find.
Yeah.
Until you're like at a deep cooling.
Yeah, if you're overheating in the whole system.
I
has
can
been
hop out of the
activated.
shower upstairs in my house and walk down to the basement, and just the heat from the shower, I'll be leaking oil to start the show. I can't cool down.
I know. That was the worst. Like, still is. Like, if you're prepping for like a summer wedding or something, and you're even
my
out of the shower and you're sweating and you're getting ready, and your hair like won't even stick because you're like this. I'm toast,
no
man.
good.
I
I've
can't
seen
get through
guys not sweat through their dress shirt, right through their suit.
this. Same. I've witnessed it. Like, we're talking at the ceremony, dude.
Yeah, like
Not
the
post-game.
suit looks like Tiger on 13 on a boiling hot day.
Yes. Having to go back to the hotel for a second suit like he's Batman or something. It is tough. All right, hour 2 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.